Hey, it's A Humble Collector here, and today's video we are celebrating a kind of special milestone. This is actually the 100th World War II German death card video that I've done. So we had a vote earlier this month, and the card that we are going to be looking at today is related to the Afrika Korps. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. This is a card of Ernst Merkel here. And from the top, in a tank battle near Salome, Africa, on June 15th, 1941, our dear, good, hopeful son, brother, brother-in-law, nephew, uncle, and cousin, Ernst Merkel, gave his young life at the age of 21 for the Fuhrer and fatherland, fulfilling his military duties. Now, I did actually find Ernst's casualty cards. I'll put that up on the screen. He was a Kanonier in the 3rd Battery of Artillery Regiment Motorized 33, which was part of the 15th Panzer Division, serving in North Africa at the time. And he would be killed by a tank shot to the chest at Fort Capuzzo. Now, Fort Capuzzo was one of the main areas of contention during Operation Battleaxe, which was a UK Commonwealth offensive that was launched to try and raise the siege of Tobruk. So the battle would last from June 15th to June 17th. So obviously with his date of death here of June 15th, he was killed on the first day of the battle, which is also when Fort Capuzzo fell. So kind of getting into the setup to that, prior to the beginning of the battle, the Axis forces actually positioned AT and mines on the ridges around the fort itself. So I'm not really sure if Ernst and his cannon would have been one of the anti-tank guns mentioned that was dug in on the ridge around the fort, or if he would have actually been stationed in the fort itself, but probably somewhere just nearby. So when the battle began early in the morning, the 7th Royal Tank Regiment was the unit that was actually tasked with taking the area around the fort, which they would do by noon. And that would really be the only one of the main British objectives for the day that would be captured. The other main objectives they were trying to take were the defensive positions at Halfaya Pass and Afed Ridge. And because of this, the battle kind of stalled out at this point. It would end up being a pretty rough battle for the British. They would actually end up losing close to 100 tanks compared to the Germans only having 12 that they had to write off. At the end of the battle on June 17th, the Commonwealth forces pulled out of the area. The Germans and the Italians were actually able to recapture Fort Capuzzo and the surrounding area. And because of that, a lot of the German tanks that were knocked out during the battle were actually repaired and were put back into service. Now, German casualties for the day were actually for the 3 days of the battle, were fairly light. They had actually less than 100 KIA, one of whom was Ernst, of course. So what's interesting, though, is in my research, I found some photos of Fort Capuzzo, which I'll put up here. It was an older fort. It had been around for quite some time. Really wouldn't have offered much in the way of protection against like modern artillery, but against small arms fire, it was more than capable. But interestingly, I found some British photos that were taken after they would eventually take this area. And you'll notice there is a small German cemetery right in front of the fort with a little over a dozen crosses in it. Now, I have not been able to find a clean photo of what any of these grave markers say, but given how light German casualties were over the course of the entire battle, and given the fact that we know, according to his casualty card, that he died at Fort Capuzzo, I think there's a very real possibility that in this photo you're seeing on screen right now, Ernst is actually buried. So if anybody happens to have a better picture of this graveyard, or maybe know if anybody does, please let me know, because I'd be very interested to see if that's the case. At some point after the war, his body was relocated. He's currently buried in the military cemetery in Tobruk. Yeah, pretty interesting. And then going to the bottom here, as we can see, condolences are being sent from Weisenberg in Bavaria, Berlin, Munich, and in the field on July 5th, 1941. And this card was sent out by the deeply mourning parents, Fritz and Emma Merkel, his siblings, and relatives. So yeah, the card itself is very simple, but this is a really cool story. I'm not super familiar with the campaign in North Africa, so it was kind of interesting getting to learn all of this stuff and about the battle that was going on. But yeah, I just really want to thank you guys. I've been doing these videos for a couple of years now. I think the channel started back in 2017. So we finally got to the point where at the 100th World War II death card video. Obviously, this is not going to be the last. I'm planning on making these videos for as long as I can. I probably have, I think I've mentioned, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 cards, so I have plenty in my backlog, and at the current rate, I've got, even if I stop buying death cards tomorrow, I probably have decades worth of content. So definitely, keep track of the channel. Definitely keep following me if you already do, and if you don't, definitely consider it. I really appreciate it. Because yeah, I try to post weekly, and I'm definitely looking forward to many more milestones when it comes to these cards. I just find them fascinating. So yeah, just thank you all for watching. Happy collecting, and I'll see y'all again very soon.